We're reconvening the March 5th, 2013 meeting of the Brattleboro Select Board. We already know that the meeting's been officially warned. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from February 19th.
I move to approve the minutes from February 19th.
Are there any comments from anybody on the board on the minutes of February 19th? Hearing none. Is there anybody in attendance who wants to comment on those minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes from February 19th, 2013 as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I abstain, so that carries 301. The next matter on the agenda is chair's remarks. First, I want to just point out that the polls are still open until 7 o'clock. When I was up voting mid-afternoon, it appeared that turnout was relatively light, so we encourage everybody to go to the polls, to BUHS. Polls are open until 7 o'clock. Maybe we'll have results during the meeting, maybe not. I would also make two other sets of comments. First, I couldn't make the meeting last week. I was down with the flu 2 weeks ago, but had I been here, I wanted to point out that last meeting, it appears, was Mr. DeGray's last regularly scheduled business meeting on the board. He's been on the board for 7 years, and he's not here for this meeting and the informational meeting and the next regularly scheduled business meeting. So had I been here last week, I would have wanted to thank Mr. DeGray for all of his effort and his hard work on the board, and recognize that the last meeting was his last regularly scheduled business meeting of the Brattleboro Select Board. I'd also note that this is really the first of our meetings in March under the new schedule, with the adoption and enactment of the new charter by the legislature and town meeting. We now have terms as select board members that last until the town meeting rather than town meeting day. And so we're now having business meetings through March with the old board, whereas we used to turn over the board as of the date of elections. So we're going to have this meeting and then another essentially lame duck session in 2 weeks. And we do encourage everybody to participate and to listen and pay attention, because the board is now going to be conducting regularly scheduled business meetings each month, including March, throughout the year. Any comments from the town manager?
Just briefly, is that on Thursday, and this will come up under meetings as well, but just reminding people that this Thursday, that would be March the 7th, is at 6 p.m. The Agency of Transportation, VTrans, is going to be holding a public hearing on improvements, reconstruction project of Putney Road. This is a major project, and I really encourage people to come to that meeting at 6 p.m. right here in the Select Board meeting room. And on March 21st at 6 p.m., the Southeast Vermont Economic Development Strategies Group is going to be holding a meeting to gather information that will be utilized for a comprehensive economic development strategy document. Again, another important meeting I hope people can come to. That too is the March 21st, 6 p.m. Here in the meeting room. Just briefly, I went down to the wastewater treatment plant this morning to see how things are going down there. Really exciting, really new and shiny and big stuff down there. We will be having a ribbon cutting on the 22nd of March, and really encourage folks who might be interested to go down and see that. It is a really phenomenal project. And that is it.
Are there any select board committee reports? Ken?
I would like to do a quick moment of silence for John Fuchs, who is one of our colleagues in the Bellows Falls, Rockingham area, who unfortunately passed away last night after participating in the town meeting in Rockingham. So one of our partners in democracy up there, and I want to do a quick moment of silence for that. Thank you.
Any other select board committee reports? Dora?
As part of my duties for being the rep to the Wyndham Regional Commission, I sit on the Transportation Committee, and back in the fall, actually I guess it was late summer, the VTrans, the state presented its plans for the 91 bridge over the West River, and there were some negative reactions from some of the communities who were concerned about the aesthetics of that bridge. And so those of us who were on the executive board for the Wyndham Regional Commission basically authorized Chris Campany, the executive director, to sort of reach out to the state and find out if there was a way to be able to have some input in the aesthetics. So they had a meeting and they put together a committee, and this is the first time VTrans has done anything like this. And it wasn't perfect. There could definitely be some improvement to the process, but what we're going to end up with is probably going to look a lot better than what we would have had originally. And I just want to thank the state for being willing to do that, and they're very excited about it. Actually, VTrans is saying they're gonna start bringing this process into to most of the projects that they're going to be doing. So it's a new day for us.
Any other select board committee reports? I would report briefly about the Traffic Safety Committee meeting last week. Besides individual concerns that are being brought forward by citizens, town manager reported at the Traffic Safety Committee meeting about efforts that are being made to distribute educational materials and leg bands, and I will ask Barb to report on that. And also, we do have now a second draft of a traffic calming procedure that is now being redeveloped to address the ways in which we'll prioritize traffic calming projects throughout the town. So we'll look forward to having that presented from the Traffic Safety Committee to the Select Board and then for distribution to the public.
Yeah, the leg bands have been distributed. We've had several different groups that have been working on that. It was done through the schools system. It was also, there were distributions. The police are distributing. I believe fire will be doing some distribution. They're supposed to be on the buses, but we haven't gotten in. Have some issues. We have to get into the buses still. There were a couple times they were going to get picked up. There was always weather on the day. So that is actually, we've also distributed them with the dog licenses when people would come in for their dog licenses, thinking that people with dogs are walking their dogs. And that was actually, has been very successful as well. So we'll continue with those efforts and try to get more places, get them into more places so that they're in more people's hands. But I have been starting to notice them on the streets.
Where do you pick them up, Barb?
You can pick them up at the town manager's office if you like.
Town manager's office.
If you like, that would be one place.
Okay. Town clerk's office?
Town clerk's office. Mm-hmm.
Where else?
The police are handing them out. It wouldn't, as they see people when they're out driving about, when they see people who are walking, who maybe need some reflective gear, they're handing them out in that way.
Great. Thank you.
Dora?
Well, I just wanted to add one more thing to what I was saying about the bridge, just because the staff, Matt Mann, Chris Campany, and Cullen Mavis in particular at Wyndham Regional have been phenomenal in putting together that process, and just want to appreciate their efforts.
Anybody else? The next item on the agenda is public participation. I only see one member of the public here today. I don't know, Mr. Sisler, if you're here to speak to something specific? I don't want to call on you, but if you want to speak, please, this would be the chance.
Can you hand them the microphone, please?
Patrick will give you the mic.
Patrick,
you should use the mic on the press table.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Yeah, I heard that the media was going to be about the I heard that the meeting tonight was about the sidewalks. And
No, the sidewalk meeting is tomorrow night, Bob. It's here, you're right, it is here, and it's at 6:15 tomorrow night here.
oh,
Are you here to talk about the sidewalks?
You can talk about the
You can
sidewalk.
talk about them now if you'd like.
well, I would like to if I could because right from the library up past the sidewalk, the driveway up here, they are pretty bad. And I heard that they were going to start at the south end on that side. Why can't they start on this side where the sidewalks are real bad? Because I drive up both sides of the sidewalk, and this side of the street is from the library up past here. It's really bad. Like I told the manager, if being the sidewalks are like they are, something happened to my chair, that to tell me to go to get the bill for it. Because you now in Brattleboro, you got about 15 to 20 people that got the motorized scooters to get around it. I wish I didn't have to have it, but so they told me that it was tonight, it's the morning. Well, I'll be up here tomorrow night too.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Barb, maybe you could just once again explain the scope of that project that tomorrow's meeting is about.
When we did it's to discuss the downtown sidewalk project, the majority of which is funded through a transportation enhancement grant for the state. When we wrote that grant back in 2009 or 10 I guess, we just chose one side of the sidewalk. We happened to choose the east side of Main Street on the sidewalks, and we put in actually a second application the following year for the west side of the streets which we didn't get. That's the only reason we're on the east side, is that's what we did as the grant application a couple of years back.
With all of you people be here tomorrow night.
Are you going to be here tomorrow night?
I am. Yeah.
So I think what I've heard is that the current project, the money, is only to rebuild the sidewalks on the east side of the street. But you're not the first person who's come in and raised an issue about the sidewalks from the library north. And we'll certainly be looking at that again going forward. I want to thank you for coming and speaking to that again.
Well, like I said, I'll be here tomorrow night. Thank you, people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
I would just add that I believe that he is correct in that that work is needed there. I don't know quite how we're going to do that, but I also feel it's hazardous to travel on foot from the library north to Williston Street on that side of the sidewalk. The gentleman came in and said that it was from the library to the American Legion, but it actually does go further to where the pavement is heaved, it's cracked, and it's pitted. And at night, it's a hazard, and in snowy, icy weather, it is also a hazard. And so if there were a way that we could have that made a priority, I would say it would be money well spent. It's a heavily traveled area, and we have a motorized scooter user too. So.
And I know, Chris, that you contacted Public Works about that, and I know you were shown, I believe you were shown the list of the various sidewalks and their grades, and you can understand that there are multiple sections of sidewalk that are need to be replaced, and that's part of the issue that we have. And so to say, I mean, I think that you kind of understand.
Oh, I do. I understand that we have the problem of needs versus very limited resources. It's not an enviable position to be in.
Dora?
Well, I just want to say that I've noticed that this winter has not been very good to some of our local roads. There's a lot of heaves out there. There's a lot of holes, and yeah, I think it's going to be concerning over the next year to try to figure out what to do about some of the roads.
Western Avenue is particularly bad at this time, and Steve Barrett is making a request to V-Trans, because that's actually a V-Trans reconstruction project that's going to need to occur. We have also had what people are going to start seeing, because of the temperatures more than the weather, because of it getting the freezing and then the warming and the freezing and the warming, you're going to see more of that, and you're also going to start seeing it in areas where the resurfacing following the hurricane. We're going to start seeing issues in some of those areas. So that's the good news.
It's a tough
Anything
one.
further on this topic on roads? All right, the next item on the agenda under new business is the FY14 parking budget. And I think I'm going to turn that over to the Assistant Town Manager, Mr. Moreland.
Thank you, David. I present for your consideration and approval fiscal 14 parking fund budget. I included a memo that I'll go over just a little bit. I believe that the expenses and the revenues as presented here are realistic and to a degree optimistic. I think there are some reasons to think that particularly parking meter revenues are going to be on the rise, in part because of the recent negotiated deal between the town and the Brattleboro Food Co-op. I think also due to an increased number of parking meters at Depot Street, which are proving to be highly prized for their location. While I present these as reasons to be optimistic, I would also like to present that in context. Given that the budget I put forward is a balanced budget and that this is an enterprise fund, that is not a strong sign of a successful enterprise. Rather, it is a sign of an absence of failure, which is a little bit different. In addition to that, there's a couple of line items that I've elected to add to the parking fund so as to help to identify specifically and to distinguish between lines which are very predictable and lines where there's a little greater volatility. So, for example, right in the expense side of the budget, right under staff salaries, which are very easy to predict, there is a new line item a couple down for overtime, which is a little bit more open to being influenced by things like weather. So I've elected to break that out into a separate line item so as to be able to isolate a little bit of that variability. Same thing is true further down in building maintenance. I've elected to add a line item for maintenance contracts, which are quite predictable, whereas building maintenance, which includes expenses that arise from things like vandalism, is a little bit more variable. So in an attempt to sort of isolate line items that have a little bit more variability to them, I've broken them out into a new line item.
Anybody on the board have any questions about the budget? Dora?
Well, can you just explain, because the public may not know, but what the difference is between the maintenance contracts? So could you just explain what the maintenance contracts
Sure. For
are?
example, a maintenance contract, we have a variety of maintenance contracts, one of which we have with, for example, Bay State Elevator. They, on a monthly basis, will come in and tune up and maintain our elevator to ensure that it's in compliance with all the appropriate codes. So that is based on an annual agreement. The town has an agreement with this firm for the elevators throughout the municipality. And so that's a very predictable and reliable expense. Every month you know what that's going to be. So we have similar contracts with the firms that maintain our fire safety equipment, for example, our water sprinkler systems. And I believe we also have a maintenance contract for the boilers and ventilation equipment down there.
I see Chris has got his smart card out. Looks like he wants to make a comment about the budget.
I do.
Chris?
Thank you. This seems to have been a bigger success than anybody had really thought. That not only did it bring in more revenue, but it also led to fewer violations. And violations are something we hear about all the time as a major complaint. On the state level, most people's direct contact with state government through, Department of Motor Vehicles, right? So they're on their best behavior when you go there. It's hard on them with their limited resources to deliver a first-class government project, but they do it. And among the direct contacts that people have with the government in Brattleboro is by way of parking enforcement. And we hear people being unhappy about parking enforcement actually doing the job they're paid to do. And frankly, I'm proud of them, and they have my complete support for what they do. The way to leap over this problem, I think, is to support more use of the smart card because it has been so successful. For myself, I find that having had one of these for at least 2 years, I've not gotten a ticket in that time because it has been so handy to use and so humane. You don't have to guess how much time you need. You just put this Hummer in the meter, and it gives you the maximum time possible on the meter. And if you don't use up all that time, you can get credit back from the meter for the time that you didn't spend. And it just turns out to make life easier. So I would like to make a suggestion, and I'm not sure how we should do it. I'd ask the board for its wisdom on this. I'd like to see somehow that the town do some more promotion of the smart card. We did something a year or so ago on Main Street during a gallery walk, and just that little bit turned out to be very successful in getting more people involved in using the smart card. It's available at another location, being the Chamber of Commerce, and boy, it really has, when people understand what it does and what it can do for them, they're onto it. I would like us to promote more use of this so that we could get more revenue and have a budget that looks a lot less like simply an absence of failure. And secondly, a little more radical, an idea I think we should be thinking about, and perhaps not voting on tonight, but perhaps voting on, depending on the courage of the board on this, and perhaps it needs just some more debate. And that is with respect to getting more revenue to the parking system, and at the same time reducing a problem that we have on Sunday afternoons in Brattleboro in parking. As many people are aware, it's hard to find space at a meter in downtown Brattleboro on a Sunday afternoon because it's not just people shopping who want to park. in the absence of charge on the meters, people who are not downtown shopping simply park there and take up space. And it's hard for someone like me who has to drive into town to actually conduct business on Main Street or all the way down to Flat Street, say at the Co-op or as far north as Elliott, as High Street, to find a parking spot. I'd like to suggest that we think about tactically changing the metering and the charging that we do so that there is charging done at the places where there's the most demand. And I'd say that's the meters on Main Street, the Harmony lot, and the Preston lot, and leave the other lots free. Get the word out that that's the arrangement so that there can be more business conducted on Main Street on the Sunday afternoons, so that it's more worth the while of the merchants to do their job and better for the people who want to shop on the weekend. How would we do this? I'm not sure at this late date when we're being asked to approve the budget, but it seems to me that if we have a budget here where, as an enterprise fund, it really is expected to have a surplus, we cannot budget for a surplus now. Why not think about doing this sort of thing? I realize that there are people, who feel that we should drive less and bicycle more, and I agree with them, but there's also the matter of distance and also weather. And I have had the comment made, well, it's not been done. Most cities don't do this. And I'm thinking, well, so what if it hasn't been done before? I think that with that the scarcity that we have in our resources in Brattleboro, compared with the demands for the services, the availability of the infrastructure, that we need to really consider doing something like that. I would like to suggest that this board entertain metering on Sunday afternoon, say from 12:30 to 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, that we meter in those areas in order to free up those spaces and also get a little more revenue to the town to make the enterprise budget a little healthier.
Are there any further comments from anybody on the board? Laura?
Well, I wasn't going, actually, the thing I was going to say was we need to do something about the people who still don't want to do a smart card and still complain about the parking and the cost for the parking and the fact that they can't find, that they don't want to come down because they're getting tickets and stuff, and that still exists. So the opposite viewpoint of what Chris is saying, Sunday, charging for Sunday, first of all, it has to be uniform. So you can't say you're going to charge in one parking lot and then not charge in the other parking lot. You can change the number of the charge, but it's, there's different amounts for some of those parking lots, but they're, one of the reasons why we just entered into the contract with the co-op was because too many of the customers are complaining that they can't find parking. One of the reasons why they want to park, one of the issues with finding parking is on the free days. They want to come into town on the free days. So Sam's and all the other businesses down there, they want that free day. They want that day for people to come down to be able to park close up to those stores. The other thing is that a lot of people who reside down there use those parking spaces on that day to run their errands. So they do their shopping, they do their, and they have their car close, parked so that they can do that. Because they can't do that on the other days unless they pay for the parking. So a lot of the residents down there use those on that Sunday. The other thing is that we've been down this road. There just is no support for the idea of charging for parking on Sunday at all.
Well, I'm looking for courage, that's all. I'm looking for courage to find a way that this is daylight we could run to.
So the matter on the agenda is presentation and approval of the parking budget. I would thank Patrick for his work putting the budget together. The memo is very clear and helpful. It explains the changes from the reporting and the changes in the figures. I guess I only have one question, which is, why is there a need for overtime and parking enforcement?
The overtime line item in parking actually is not for parking enforcement staff. It's not for the folks who are out there issuing citations or collecting meters. It is a line item that is taken up by overtime for either maintenance staff that are involved in cleaning up from snowstorms, or sometimes some public works staff overtime is booked there when they're doing particular activities in the parking lots on our behalf.
Thank you. Mr. Do you have something, Ken?
I was going to make a motion. but
All right, well,
go there.
Mr. Sisler, do you have something you want to offer? Hold on a second, Patrick, we'll get you the mic.
I'm handicapped, and I got a handicap sticker that I had my friends take me where I gotta go because I'm not able to have a license. Now, I was told if my friend took me downtown, and there's a packet place, and I got the handicap sticker. I was told that they cannot bother us. Is that right?
I can take that.
Patrick will answer that question.
Yeah, if you have a state-issued handicap
I
placard,
got two of them.
one's good enough. You will not be charged for parking. You can park at a meter anywhere in the town.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
All right.
find out.
You have to be parked at a spot, though.
Oh,
Right. It's got to be a parking spot.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Oh,
exempt
yeah.
you from
Yeah.
loading zones or
Yeah.
fire
I know
zones or any of
that.
the other things. But
so if there's no further comments, I think we're ready for a motion on the budget.
I move to approve the FY14 parking fund budget with revenues and expenses in the amount of $838,635.
Is there any further discussion or comments on that budget or on that motion?
Could I just ask if there's any response by the town on doing more to market the smart card? I mean, I brought up the idea, but I did get a response on my second idea. I didn't get any response on my first idea.
as far as smart card promotions or promotions of the parking system as a whole, there is a line item in the budget, and that's for marketing efforts, and that's an activity I typically will work with somebody from Building a Better Brattleboro or the Chamber on appropriate efforts to promote the system.
Where's
So
that?
Patrick is referring to line 665521 which is $1,500 we've approved in the budget. Marketing.
That's what that's for? Is to get
Yes,
the
sir.
word out about smart card marketing?
Not specifically smart cards, but smart cards are certainly a priority. But for marketing efforts, that helped us, for example, to produce the signs that you now see in the parking lot that say, you know, you are here, and here's where the other parking lots are. So it's for some additional publicity. It helped us to produce pamphlets that now can be distributed to the public. But for promotions of smart cards, that would certainly be a priority for use of those funds.
Laura?
But I realized I did have a question. In the page 1 of 2, where the Irene debris removal and building repairs, and it's got the expenses and what the actual was. Was that an all but 10% reimbursed amount, or
That was either through, that was either reimbursed through insurance. I think that was pretty much all insurance with our deductible.
okay?
If you see the
Yeah, I
the
was-
insurance payment at the top.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Any further comments? The motion is to approve the FY14 parking fund budget with revenues and expenses in the amount of $838,635. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed?
I'm opposed.
Anybody abstaining? So that carries 3-1. The next item on the agenda is the grand list attestation. Barb, could you speak to the grand list attestation, please?
Basically, what the board is asked to attest to is that there are no pending appeals or suits for the grand list that was filed April 1st of 2012. And as you can see, the Board of Listers has already signed off on that, and there are no pending appeals or lawsuits for that grand list.
Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments about the grand list attestation? Could we have a motion, please?
I'll keep going. I move to approve the certification of no appeal or suit pending for the grand list filed April 1st, 2012.
Is there any further discussion? Anybody in attendance want to speak to the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That carries 4-0. The next item on the agenda is a request to award a bid for purchase and setting prices for compost carts.
Correct. Sorry, the town put out a request for proposals. We received proposals from 4 different companies on the 21-gallon compost bins for the new townwide curbside compost project. We are recommending that we go with IPL. You will note that IPL is not the lowest bid. There's 50 cents difference between the Orbis and the IPL. We are recommending IPL because the IPL has a lock or a latch that during the pilot project, the haulers and the users found to work much better. So that's why we're going with the slightly higher cost, 50 cents a gallon, or 50 cents, I'm sorry, an item higher. For the 12-gallon, we actually only received a bid on 12-gallon from Orbis, so we are recommending that we go go with the Orbis bid for the 12-gallon. We have talked with both providers, and they are fine with splitting the bids, and that was actually how the bids were done, understanding that we would be. We did have on the bid a kitchen container as well. We're going to rebid for the kitchen container, however, because we want to see if we think we can get more bids for the kitchen containers.
Is that, never mind, go ahead.
The other part of this then is we are recommending that for the 12-gallon, participants pay $7 towards the container, and for the 21-gallon, that participants pay $10 for the container. One of the reasons we are suggesting this is during some of the research that's been done by Moss Kaler, who is the coordinator, as well as working with Peter Gaskell from Triple T, they have found that when people have to pay some amount for the container, they tend to take better care of it and don't leave it behind, things like that. So that is the reason. It's not really to be revenue generating. You can see that the town in the 12-gallon containers would still be picking up $10.55, and in the 21, we would be picking up actually $18 of the cost.
Plus the shipping.
Plus the shipping, exactly, yes.
Are we going to be having 2 separate motions here, one to approve the purchase and the second to approve the cost?
Yes, please.
Does anybody on the board have any questions about the compost cart program?
Just to put in a little more information. As of yesterday, we had about 450 people who had signed up already for that, and that we are looking at utilizing the skating rink for distribution of the carts when they come, because there won't be ice there anymore in the end of March, and we feel that would be a good place, kind of large enough space inside in case it's inclement weather to pick up the carts.
Could I inquire, Barb, how many total households receive municipal trash pickup in Brattleboro? And if there's the 450 households that have signed up in addition to the 150 who are part of the pilot project?
I believe, and this is, I asked Callista that, she thinks that Moss imported that data into it so that it is a total of 450 right now, not 600, which I thought it was 600. So I think we're at the 450. As far as total pickup, I believe, I want to say like 3,100 households that we pick up. And so actually we are actually pretty good. We're kind of where we thought we would be and doing pretty good as far as where we're at. When you start a voluntary townwide program, these are kind of, they say, you know, expect 10%. If you can get up to 20%, you're doing well.
Any other questions from the board or comments from the board? Chris?
Couple. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about the kitchen items? I mean, if it's better to talk about that after voting on the carts, that's fine with me.
Just another. We were looking into the possibility of buying bulk kitchen compost containers, which are just smaller containers.
Yeah.
That would have a bag inside. But the response, we put that out as an addendum to the RFP, and there are some companies who only do the kitchen containers, and so they weren't aware of it, and so that's part of the reason we're rebidding it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because there was a very nice one that was distributed to the pilot project.
Yes.
And it's a lovely one. Was that one of these companies that distributed it?
I can't say. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, because it worked really well. I mean, they weren't homely. I mean, they were actually very functional, and really took into account how the biology works, so that it really didn't produce the same kind of odor that you see when you try to take care of composting conventionally. So, and the other is, I was wondering how we could talk this up more. I mean, the select board is a limited bully pulpit, you know.
Actually, Moss Kaler's done a good job voting today. He had a booth there
Very informative.
to discuss
I didn't
it,
see it.
and so asking people to sign up. We have put sign up as now, if you have access to the internet, it's automated through People Forms through our town website. Which then automatically populates the database. So. There have been some news stories on it. It's actually, he's actually doing an excellent job.
Well, I would agree. He is doing an excellent job. We have 450 signups out of 3,100, and I guess if the consultants say that's great, I'm willing to accept that. I just see this as from a cost standpoint. You know, we've got this tough budget and we've got tougher times ahead, and the landfills are filling up, and it just seems like doing the right thing by way of getting people involved with this is going to save us money in the long run.
I do want to say though, Chris, that we don't want it to be too many at once. There's a lot of kinks to work out of sort of the whole process of just doing the pickup. And if you're collecting too much compost, we don't have a risk system in place for taking the compost and the farm down in Greenfield, where a lot of it had been going previously is fairly maxed out.
Oh.
And the solid waste district did the pilot program and has that, and has some space for that, for the open rows. But there's no system really in place to collect that much compost at this moment. So
Okay.
we have to do the collection, we have to get the people on board, and we have to create the systems, and we can't,
Okay.
so we don't want it to grow too big, too quickly.
Too fast. Okay. Fine. Thank you. I hadn't been aware of that.
I think there's also education involved.
Definitely.
That knowing what goes in the compost and what stays out is a learning curve, and I don't think we can educate 1,000 households at once, but 300 or 450 we can probably manage with in the first instance.
Okay. Okay. I'm happy if you, with your background, are also happy. I'm happy.
Any other comments?
Smile.
All right, so the first motion we need is for awarding the contracts for the 12 and 21 gallon carts.
Move to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract for 12-gallon carts with Orbis and to enter into a contract for 21-gallon carts with IBL.
Do we need the dollar figures or the numbers of carts? Barbara, is this enough?
No, and I purposely left those out in case we need to change the numbers depending on the signups.
Can you just say we're doing those separately?
No, this is the first one, and then we'll assign the cost after. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? That carries 4-0. And then we need a motion, I guess I'll make that motion, I move that the town charge $7 for 12-gallon carts and $10 for 21-gallon carts for the end user. All right, so I made that motion. Is there any discussion? Dora?
Well, I'm just wondering, and maybe Moss is already thinking of this, but the issue of thinking about wanting to make sure that it's not prohibitive for lower income folks to be able to participate in the program. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we can address that in the motion, but I think that. Go ahead.
People don't necessarily have to use these carts. We're not making it mandatory to
Oh,
use
we're
these
not?
carts.
Okay.
No, and because that was the question I had. So we are, we will be able to talk with people who can't afford the $7 and $10 and help them get other means of compost. We can do more of the tubs.
But I'm just wondering if, like when the pay-as-you-throw discussion came up and people were looking for some sort of, if, maybe there's some sort of way that we can have just a little bit of a fund to be able to.
The issue becomes how to determine who gets that, and so
Maybe working with one of the social service agencies to figure out that, drop-in center? I don't know.
It's a good idea. Are you making some sort of friendly amendment, or are you going to leave it for now?
I'm just bringing it up as an issue. I think that this is something that can be worked out, and I think that Moss is somebody who could probably come up with something, and maybe it's something that can be talked about. So I'm not.
I'll be happy to. I think during this, before, I think at some point, Dora, anybody that we're going to be probably going to mandatory townwide with them composting, just because of the legislation.
Yeah.
And I think as we move forward with this, I kind of see this as step 2 of the pilot in some ways.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be able to address that. We'll get a better sense of how to address that then, too. I agree that it's something that we need to continue to look at. We'll be able to figure out some
I don't think
rules.
there's an easy answer, which is why I wasn't proposing making an amendment. I just wanted to raise the issue.
Any further comments, question, discussion from anybody on the board or anybody who's in attendance? Hearing none. All those in favor of setting the prices at $7 for the smaller carts and $10 for the bigger carts, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? That carries 4-0. The next item on the agenda was awarding the contract for the project manager for the police fire project, but we're going to pass over that item, and that will be placed on an agenda for probably a special meeting before the informational town meeting next week. We're just passing over the item. All right, so the next item on the agenda is to award contract for the municipal project manager for the downtown sidewalk project. Barb.
This project requires kind of a project manager. Sometimes we do these in-house, and it'd be Steve Barrett or someone from Public Works. Because of the ongoing work and the scope and some of the requirements of the Transportation Enhancement Grant, we felt it beneficial in this case to reach out to the Wyndham Regional Commission to seek their project, to seek them as project manager. Matt Mann, the transportation planner, will be signing on, if this is approved by the board, as the project manager for the downtown sidewalk project. And his role will be to ensure that we meet all the grant requirements of the transportation enhancement grant, which are actually many. This did not go out to bid because that is one of the, when you work with a regional commission, the state does not require that we do bids on these things. So that's why this did not go out to bid.
Dora?
Well, I just want to say, Matt, he's been project manager of a lot of things and over the years with the town, and he always does a really good job. And he's right down the street.
Anybody else have any questions or comments
Make the
about
motion.
the contract?
Move to approve the contract for project management services with the Wyndham Regional Commission in an amount not to exceed $7,500.
Any further comments from anybody on the board or questions from anybody on the board or anybody who's in attendance? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That carries 4-0. Next item on the agenda is to accept and appropriate a grant for video conferencing equipment at the library.
It's $8,000 worth of equipment. It's a total grant of $9,000 for video conferencing through the Vermont Department of Libraries and Google. It pays for the equipment, which is a monitor, microphones, camera, as well as the software and installation, and then $1,000 for training. We anticipate that they will be starting with the equipment in about a month to do that, and it's really quite exciting. This will currently, for video conferencing, you either have to go to the high school or the career center or to the Familari farm, and this will give us another place to do video conferencing.
Great.
Is this, are those two systems compatible?
Which two systems?
Well, the video conferencing we're going to put in at the library and what's up at the VTC facility out in the
They're the same type of thing.
Oh, and so they are? So you could have a conference from the library to the VABC?
Sure.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Dora?
Skyping.
Well, I just want to say that I was in there earlier and I was talking to Jean because I was wondering where they were going to use the equipment. And it's one of those things that the buildings committee is looking at because they have to figure out space, and it's part of many of the needs that they're looking at that have changed that they're going to need to restructure the library over, and one of them, and currently what they're probably looking at is using the meeting room when it's not in use for a meeting.
You mean the one on the third floor?
The one on the yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or there's another little space on the first floor and toward the left after you walk in.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to use that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? I have a question. When we discussed this, I think it was about 9 months ago, I inquired about guidelines for use of the equipment. I think as I read through the papers in preparation for today's meeting, the services that are being provided through this library and this grant-funded equipment services were supposed to be free. But Vermont Interactive Television charges a fee for use of their equipment, and the list of potential uses here is pretty broad, and it's not clear to me that all of these are really appropriate uses for grant-funded video conferencing equipment that would provide free services. Local citizens interacting with friends or family, and individuals connecting with legal personnel. Those are, I mean, potentially fee-for-service situations, and I want to make sure that there are going to be procedures in place, and I think I'd like to see them, given that the grant funding is coming through the town and the potential uses are so broad.
I spoke with Jerry today on this, and the library board of directors is looking at this. They are going to have to make some changes with their existing policies, as well as with their use of their room. And so, but what I could say is that those need to come back before the board.
Before the equipment is put in use?
Before it's put in use, that's
right.
Sure.
Because same here, area CPAs attending IRS training, that certainly seems like fee-for-service type situation. Any other questions or comments? Then I guess we're ready for a motion to approve this grant, accept and appropriate this grant.
I move to accept and appropriate $9,000 from the Vermont Department of Libraries and Google for video conferencing equipment, software, and training.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? That motion carries 4-0. The next matter on the agenda is announcement of committee vacancies. Barb?
We have had one a resignation from Stan Wazalewski from the CPCC, so we have one opening on that committee now. We still are accepting applications for the police fire facilities committee, and I'm going to have to talk later. The sidewalk, I'm taking that out for right now. And we also have a vacancy that was created from the death of Mr. Weaver for the state town service officer. So we wanted to announce CPCC, police fire facilities, and the town service officer are all open, and we'd like to seek applications for those and possibly come back for maybe the first or second meeting in April. I know that the police fire has a date set already.
Has a date set? I'm sorry?
Has a date set already. It's probably on here.
For what?
Applications are due by March 12th for the police fire.
Oh, yeah.
For the CPCC and the town service officer, what date would you like to set for those?
Could we issue a new press release that extends the deadline on police fire and
Sure.
that sets the others as well, maybe for the 22nd or the 29th of March?
Sure. It's up to you.
So,
Anybody have any preference?
well,
21st. We don't. It's hard to do them on Fridays sometimes.
I'm just.
It's the top one. I know.
At the top,
yeah.
I'm just wondering, instead of, because these are traditional entities that you don't always fill right away, so I'm wondering if rather than putting a deadline and just sort of putting it out there and kind of leaving it, and then filling it. I mean, we could put a deadline to, but my guess is that it's going to have to be extended again. So
I don't know. We've been having luck with the CPCC. They've been
Yeah.
full,
but it doesn't really matter. 'Cause, I mean, it's
Yeah.
the date that we're going to that it's going to end up being, and I'm not going to be here, so it's sort of it's not. When's town meeting? 23rd.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 25th is when we change.
Right. Yeah. This would be if you put it at the 21st or 22nd, then it would be taken up at the April 2nd meeting.
So it's really up to the two continuing board members as to what you guys want to do.
Maybe we could set a deadline for March 22nd, and then we can take it up at the April 2nd meeting.
That's fine.
Does that make sense?
That's fine.
Is that okay? We don't
Yep.
need a motion for that?
No.
And then the next item on the agenda is refinancing the Honeywell project lease, and I'll turn the floor over to Mr. O'Connor.
Thanks, David. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a conference in South Burlington, and a participant from Municipal Leasing Consultants out of Grand Isle was also at the conference. And she came up to me and asked me if I would consider a proposal from them to refinance our current lease that we have for the Honeywell equipment. I told her sure. I sent her all the documentation, and she put together a proposal that's in your packet. And you can see that if we were to go to 9 annual payments starting in July of next year, that we would save $92,000 on the over the current lease. So I think it's a really good idea to refinance this lease and save the town the $92,000.
Well, I just want to say that this Honeywell contract has been, given me much consternation over time. And when I saw the actual figures here as to what it's actually going to cost, I got very upset. I hope that this is a lesson learned for not just us, but the town school board and the high school, as to how you can actually do the work yourself and figure out how to do stuff and do it for a lot lower cost. That being said, anything that's going to save us money to refinance the lease, if we can't get out of the lease, which is what I'd like to do, then at least let's make it so that it doesn't cost so much.
Well, we would actually cancel the existing lease, Dora, and then we refinance it with a new lease.
So there'd be a second there, where we'd be out.
That's what I'm wondering.
You should rejoice in that.
We'll let you know.
So,
Anybody, Chris?
so John, so when you say beginning July of next year, you mean the next fiscal year? You mean the forthcoming July?
Coming July would be our first annual payment.
It's coming to
Okay, and so we would be paying under the new contract with the savings? Under the new lease with the savings?
Yes.
Ooh, okay. And the other was, I wonder if you could just remind us what it is that we're leasing.
Oh, there's a whole list of equipment, including boilers and, different things they did to insulate the buildings and
controllers, all the controllers on the walls.
Yeah.
They
Different lights, the lighting in here. It was the entire project that you're doing.
Okay, so we are only leasing that stuff? Is it a lease purchase or?
It's a performance contract.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
performance contract.
yes, when the lease is finished, we will own the equipment.
Okay. Okay.
Right, so we had, at least some of us, meetings with personnel from the Energy Committee over the last year, and they provided us with schedules which showed that over the life of the contract, although we're paying out like $1 million for this equipment, the energy savings from that investment pay for the cost over a period of time. So this is a municipal project that hurts in the short term because we've got to pay out like $1 million or more in order to upgrade the equipment, but we are both saving fuel and saving the cost of fuel so that ultimately it makes us money. It's just doesn't make us money until 15 or 20 years out.
Correct.
And if I may, my understanding was that it wasn't just going to be paying for itself, but that we were going to be realizing very substantial savings after a certain point in time, so that the money that we will have paid out will have gotten us actually a return in savings that we would not have had otherwise. That was my pretty clear understanding, that they would go from negative to positive after a few years, and that there would be a net gain that was quite material.
Dora?
Well, that is the theory, and there will be a little bit of a gain, but there could have been a much greater gain if we hadn't entered into a performance contract and paid all that money to Honeywell and had done the work ourselves.
Any further comments? If not, then Can we have a motion on adopting this option C, which is annual payments?
I would be happy to make that motion.
Here you go, Mitch.
Thank you. I move to authorize the finance director to notify PNC Equipment Finance of the town of Brattleboro's intention to prepay and refinance the Honeywell Energy Project lease.
The reason that's written that way, as John would say, is that we have to first give notice before we can enter into a new lease agreement. And so that's
Okay.
why you're only authorizing that.
And so we do not need to authorize the signature on the new lease? Very good.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? That motion carries 4-0. And
Ken, you're on.
it would appear that that's the last item on the agenda before meetings.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, March 6th, 6:15 p.m., Main Street Sidewalk. Local concerns will be heard in the Select Board and Hannah Cosman meeting rooms. 7 p.m., the Agricultural Advisory Committee will be meeting in the Hannah Cosman meeting room. That seems to be at the same time.
Wasn't that canceled?
I think it was canceled.
Mark? or
I recall that being
James?
canceled, and I'm announcing it as canceled. The Agricultural Advisory Committee.
Yes, that was canceled,
Yes.
correct.
Good job, Chris. On Thursday at 7:30 a.m., Select Board will be meeting in a special meeting to talk about the utilities budget. Also on Thursday at 6 p.m., the V-Trans Putney Road Project 502 hearing will be happening in here, Select Board and Hannah Cosman meeting rooms. And also at 6:30 p.m., the Skate Park Committee will be meeting in the Gibson-Aiken Center. On Friday, March 8th at 10 a.m., the ADA Advisory Committee meets in the Marlborough College Graduate Center. On Monday, March 11th at 6 p.m., the Planning Commission will be meeting in the Select Board meeting room. Also on Monday the 11th at 6 p.m., the Rec and Parks Board will be meeting in the Gibson-Aiken Center. On Tuesday, March 12th at 4 p.m., the Arts Committee will be meeting in the Select Board meeting room. At 4:30 p.m., the Wastewater Treatment Plant Upgrade Oversight Committee will be meeting at the Wastewater Treatment Plant. And also, Tuesday the 12th, 7 p.m., the Tree Advisory Committee will be meeting in the Hannah Cosman meeting room. Wednesday the 13th, it's a lot. At 6 p.m., Representative Town Meeting Informational Meeting Caucuses will start, and at 6:30 p.m., Representative Town Meeting Informational Meeting will take place at Academy School. Both of those are at Academy School, and I'm pretty sure there will be open positions for which you can caucus. On Monday the 18th at 6 p.m., there will be a joint meeting of the West River Park and the Park and Recs Board working together at the Gibson-Aiken Center. At 7 p.m. on March 18th, the DRB will be meeting in the Select Board meeting room. And finally, on Tuesday the 19th, the Select Board, this Select Board will have our last meeting.
Before you move to adjourn.
What if I wasn't going to adjourn? Don't make assumptions.
Play with us.
So can we set the continuation of the executive session and a public meeting to make a decision on the police fire for 5 or 5:30 on the 13th? What's the earliest we can do it on the 13th?
I
I'm
can
free.
get there by 5.
5 o'clock?
I can easily get there by 5, yeah.
All right. 5 o'clock at Academy School. So there's also going to be
Oh, no, I'm sorry. If we could do 5:15 or 5:30, that would be
5:30,
better.
okay.
5:30, I could do that, definitely.
5:30 at Academy School. Select Board's going to meet to continue executive session discussion of 2 contract matters, and also to have a public meeting to award contract for the project manager for police fire. 5:30 at Academy School on the
March
13th of March, before the 6:30 informational meeting. And since I know consistency is the hobgoblin, do you want somebody else to move to adjourn?
No, I would move to adjourn.
Any discussion?
And-
All those in
and-
favor, please say aye.
Well, wait. Congratulations to the winner
All
of
right.
the Select Board
So,
election.
and I'll now announce
From Annette Cappy.
Yeah.
from Annette Cappy, the 1-year slots for Select Board have gone to John Allen and David Scholes, and the 3-year slot went to Kate O'Connor.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to those new Select Board members.
Welcome to
Thanks.
We'll look forward to
Everybody.
working with them.
Thanks,
And
everybody.
thanks
Yes,
everybody
thank you
for
to all
running.
those candidates.
So now we have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries 4-0. We're adjourned.
Okay. So we're close.
This is on the attestation.
Ooh, that 3-year race was not so cool.
It was not close.